Come with me, there's no time to explain. Hello everyone, welcome to another very professional movie review. I am Caden, your very professional movie reviewer, and today we are talking about Superman. Superman 2025 is the latest movie directed by James Gunn. It is starring David Cornsweet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, whole lot of other people, whole lot of very talented people, because everybody did a great job in this movie, including, of course, James Gunn himself. This is, of course, the start to the new DCU, or at least the first feature film. I know Creature Commandos exists, and technically Peacemaker may or may not be part of it, whatever. But the first ever jump for the feature film department into the DC universe, I almost said DC Extended Universe, that was the other one that failed. Of course, James Gunn now at the helm, directing this movie, his fifth superhero movie, of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, as well as the Suicide Squad. Now, Superman, originally titled Superman Legacy, starring David Cornsweet as Superman / Clark Kent. And a lot of people have been praising this movie for David Cornsweet's performance specifically. That's the first thing I want to get through. Is David Cornsweet the Superman? No. Is he incredible? Yes, I think he does a great job. This version of Superman, and I will say this is probably my favorite version of Superman on film, in terms of just the way he's written, in terms of his character. But I don't think that this is the be-all, end-all Superman performance. I still do think Christopher Reeve is a bit better, but of course we will get more of David Cornsweet as Superman / Clark Kent as these movies continue to go on. This is just our first introduction to him, and he does a phenomenal job. So does Rachel Brosnahan, though I don't like her as much as Margot Kidder. The one person I will say I actually do like more than any of his other counterparts in film, Nicholas Hoult, absolutely murders this role as Lex Luthor. I've heard people say he inspires me to do better with hating. I can't lie, I feel the same way. This man is the number one hater. This man is legit the Kendrick to Superman's Drake. Like, I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk, the way that you fly. Like, he just hates him, and it's great. Of course, the CGI is great. It's a huge, big-budget movie, which, of course, sadly, you wouldn't expect always, because, again, we do get stuff like Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania, The Flash, these movies that are big-budget superhero blockbuster films that just don't look good. And I know a lot of people were criticizing the way it looks, and maybe some of it might be AI generated, and his eyes a little off when he's in the flying scenes and the trailers. No, it's not there. It just isn't. There's incredible special effects here, great action sequences throughout. Even if I do think the ending action sequence does go a little long, but again, there is very much cut up by a lot of dialogue. So it's extended for a reason. I will say one thing I wish we got more of is Clark Kent. I don't think we got enough of Clark Kent, specifically his relationship with Lois Lane. I don't think we got enough. And I can't tell if it was because Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsweet don't have good chemistry, or it's because we just weren't given the opportunity to see them more on screen together. I just wish there was more of that, because they don't have many scenes together, and I wish that was more the core dynamic of the film. And same thing, obviously, throw in Jimmy Olsen into that as well, though I do think his characterization is quite good in this movie, more so on his own. I just wish that, again, we got more scenes with those three together at the Daily Planet instead of the way that the movie does it. And one of the big things I think that a lot of people have a problem with the movie is the pacing is a little off, just because James Gunn decides to, with this, again, this felt like the perfect opportunity to really introduce us to this Superman, especially with the first solo film. And instead, it really does feel like a build-up to the new DCU, more so than, again, I bring up Iron Man for the MCU, was a build-up for Iron Man, and they snuck it in at the end, like, oh yeah, there's more to this than just Iron Man. And of course they continue with the Hulk, Incredible Hulk, and all the rest of the MCU, and thus makes it into film history as, like, the biggest, fucking, like, extended cinematic universe in cinematic history. This feels like this should have been more of a build for Superman. They introduce a lot of different characters. And it's not that they do a bad job characterizing them. It's that I feel like you almost sacrifice the core relationship of Clark Kent / Superman and Lois Lane for it. And I don't exactly appreciate that. And again, I know some people have called out the jokes not landing or being poorly timed. And yeah, there's a little bit of that. But there's about as much of that as there was in Guardians Volume 3, where it's consistently funny when it's trying to be funny, and I will say it's a funnier movie because I think it's akin in its comedy to something like a Guardians 1, just because we are introduced to these characters. There's not as much of heavy themes being introduced, and when they are, they do let them breathe a little bit. Not complete, but they don't completely ruin some of these scenes, thankfully. But it maybe is a little bit silly. It is a little bit comic booky. And if that's not what you're into, that's not what you're into. I understand that. Again, while as much as I don't love Zack Snyder's vision, I can get the idea of being more adult, being more grounded in its approach compared to the comic booky stuff that we got. We did get beforehand and are continuing to get, obviously, with this version of Superman. And again, if you're part of that, I'm not like, if you're part of if you're a Snyder fan, if you believed in Snyder's vision more than you believe in James Gunn's vision, going more comic book accurate, going more funny and comedy a little bit, if you're more into that, maybe this isn't quite for you, and that's okay. If you prefer the more grounded reality, obviously Matt Reeves just finished the Batman Part 2 script. I loved the Batman. Stuff like that that's more grounded in reality, I think, does have a place in the superhero genre, but just like this does. That's the thing. This is a movie that is very comic booky and very over the top and very colorful and fun, and it just makes you love Superman. I think this is more than anything, I appreciate this movie for understanding Superman as a character. Not trying to do it any sort of direction or take with him, just understanding him as a symbol of hope and peace. And there's a scene in here that absolutely got me choked up because of how powerful it was in terms of just showing the love that people have for Superman and what Superman means to them. I absolutely loved the portrayal of Superman more than I think I loved the movie in general. And that's still saying it's a very good movie. It's one of the better ones of the year, I think, so far. It's just stacking up to a lot of James Gunn stuff. It's not as great. But it is also a wonderful start to the DCU. I'm interested in seeing more of Mr. Terrific and, the Green Lantern and Lantern Corps more so. And, of course, more interested in seeing the man himself, Superman. I'm excited to that, and hopefully we get more with him and Lois Lane in future installments of Superman or anything else we are introduced to in this. I do just wish there was more of that in here and they didn't focus as much on the DCU stuff. But if you love this type of movie, you're going to eat this up. If you love Superman, you're going to eat this up. If you're more into the grounded reality, this isn't grounded reality-based storytelling with superheroes, maybe not for you, but I think you might still be able to appreciate some stuff from this. But it is very much the comic book brought to life that it's been marketed as being. So if you enjoy this type of movie, go see it immediately. For me, it hit me near and dear to the heart as a Superman fan. I give this a 5 out of 7. It's very good. I think that it is total watch, unless you really just are ride or die with Snyder's vision, and that's fair because he did a good job for what it was. If you have seen the movie, tell me what you think of it in the comments below, and make sure that you follow the page for more reviews like this. If you haven't seen the movie, and you like what I just said, go watch it. If you don't. Whatever it is, share your opinions in the comments below. Are you excited to watch it? Are you not? And with that being said, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.